Hi, this is Nanette Hosenfeld with the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Friday, July 16th, 2021. Looking at fire potential impacts over the next few days, today we will see lightning across much of the eastern half of the Great Basin. The lightning furthest to the north will be mostly dry, and as you move further south, that will transition to more of a mix of wet and dry storms. We're also looking at the potential for some gusty winds across western Nevada and portions of southeastern Idaho. As we move into Saturday, we'll continue to see lightning. It'll mostly be a mix of wet and dry, and it'll be across the areas with the yellow marks. And then moving into Sunday, looking at more widespread storms across the southern part of the Great Basin as we see some deeper moisture moving in to the Great Basin. Those storms will be a mix of wet and dry. Looking at our afternoon smoke and visibility forecast for today, looks like most of the Great Basin should be above that 10 statute mile mark as far as surface visibility, so it's pretty good news for the area. The areas with the greatest smoke impacts will be across the northern part of the Great Basin. You can see on that smoke map on the left. The wind patterns will shift the smoke mostly to our west up into northern Nevada and southwestern Idaho. So we look at Saturday afternoon, similar areas as far as impacts, so it looks like smoke could be a little thicker on Saturday afternoon. So looking at the areas of greatest impact on Saturday, being across northern Nevada into southwestern Idaho, and up into the central Idaho mountains. So northern part of the Great Basin will definitely see the greatest smoke impacts. Generally, visibility will remain above 30 to 50 statute miles, although we could see some pockets of lower visibility, as you can see noted in northern Nevada. Over the past 24 hours, we did have quite a bit of lightning across the Great Basin. You can see that from our lightning map on the right. These storms across the northern part of the Great Basin were a mix of wet and dry. Further south, they were very wet. You can see some pretty impressive rainfall totals on the map there. Some areas reporting over an inch of rain just in 24 hours. So really wet storms across the south, and then more of a mix of wet and dry storms across the northern part of the Great Basin. With that lightning, we did see quite a few new starts yesterday. You can see those newer fires on the map marked with red. Looking back at the past 7 days, as far as precipitation, with the monsoon in place, the southern part of the Great Basin has definitely seen the most precipitation, some areas seeing over an inch of rain, which is great. Looking back 30 days, again, as we typically expect for this time of year, the areas with greatest precipitation accumulation have been across the southern and southeastern part of the Great Basin, really quite dry across the northern part of the area. ERCs reflect those precipitation trends pretty well. You can see the ERCs across the southern part of the Great Basin have dropped into that 50th percentile range and are still trending downwards. Further north, it's a very different picture with ERCs above that 90th and even 97th percentile threshold. So kind of flipped to where the northern part of the Great Basin is the driest, and ERCs are climbing there. Looking at those ERC trends again across the southern part of the Great Basin, looking at a general downward trend in ERCs and even up into GB27, which is west central Utah. We have seen a decrease with the greater relative humidities and precipitation from the thunderstorms we've seen in the afternoon. Further north, GB10, which covers western Wyoming, is above record levels for the time of year. So they've really shot upwards with the record heat we've had over the past few weeks and are into record territory. Satellite this morning, pretty interesting to look at the smoke patterns. You can see the fires in California sending their smoke up north into the east. That's mainly impacting the central Idaho mountains and also seeing some impacts down into Nevada. Generally hazy skies everywhere, but looking at the thickest smoke across the far northern part of the Great Basin. For today, we do have a high risk out for lightning for portions of Idaho. You can see those areas highlighted on red in the map. Also looking at some gusty winds and drier conditions where we have that wind high risk today. Further to the south, you can see those PSAs that have gone to green with the recent moisture and higher relative humidities in that area. Looking at Friday in more detail, looking at the image on the left, which shows our wind gusts. Again, you can see some areas expected to see winds in that 25 to about 35 mile an hour range this afternoon, and really low relative humidities, looking at single-digit relative humidities across northern Nevada and into portions of southwestern Idaho. So really dry and windy across those portions of the Great Basin. And then further to the southeast, looking at higher relative humidities with that moisture in place. Taking a look at the lightning, expecting to see lightning coverage across much of Utah, maybe some storms into far eastern Nevada, and then also storms expected across the central Idaho mountains and eastern Idaho, western Wyoming. Biggest concern is for those northernmost storms where we are looking at the greater potential for dry lightning. As we move into Saturday, looking at a little shot of drier air across the northwestern part of the Great Basin. No high risk issued for Saturday. Saturday, we could see some elevated winds across some of those similar areas that we're looking at for today. So northwestern Nevada, portions of Idaho, and those would be in areas with low relative humidities, but wind speeds do come down into Saturday, and we're looking at winds below critical threshold on Saturday. As far as lightning, still looking at the potential for some storms across portions of northeastern Utah, southeastern Idaho, and then the higher terrain of central and southern Utah. And again, those dry humidities expected on Saturday. So moving to Sunday, we're looking at another moisture surge moving up through the southern part of the Great Basin. With that increase in moisture, we do have a high risk out for lightning across southern Nevada. Southern Utah is not included in that with how moist conditions have been there over the past week or so. So on Sunday, you can see those higher relative humidities showing up there with that moisture surge. Winds will generally be light, though we could see some gusty winds around thunderstorms, and that's what those colors are on the wind gust map. With that increase in moisture, looking at a pretty big increase in lightning across the southern part of the Great Basin on Sunday. Again, our main concern with that is for the Nevada areas, which are not quite as have not been quite as wet as the areas in Utah. Over the next 3 days, the southern part of the Great Basin will see the greatest precipitation accumulation, though we could see some spotty precipitation across the central and northeastern part of the Great Basin, but definitely the greatest accumulations expected across southern Utah, the Arizona Strip, and far southern Nevada. So moving to Monday, we look at that moisture moving north into portions of northern Nevada, southwestern Idaho, and northwestern Utah. Storms will be more widespread than where we have those lightning high risks out, but those are the areas where we are concerned about the drier fuels and drier storms. So concerned with some lightning on Monday moving into areas that have been pretty hot and dry over the past month. And as we move into Tuesday, looking at that lightning risk, continuing to shift northward into all of our Idaho zones. Again, these are areas that have been seeing record heat for the past 2 to 3 weeks, and so the addition of lightning is concerning in those areas. So moving to Wednesday, looking to keep moisture in place. We'd expect to see another day of storms, but being this far out into next week, we don't have a high risk issue just because we need to watch those moisture trends and see how wet versus dry the storms are leading up to Wednesday. And similar case for Thursday, though the good news is that we are looking at some of those PSAs shifting from brown to yellow in central Nevada and northern Utah. 7-day period, we are looking at another moisture surge, which will bring thunderstorms, showers and thunderstorms to the area. With that moisture coming up from the south, those storms will be wettest across the south, which is why we see the best precipitation accumulations across the central and southern part of the Great Basin. The 8 to 14-day outlook, the Climate Prediction Center is calling for above normal temperatures across the northern part of the Great Basin. This is where we have seen record heat, so it's continuing to look quite hot for the northern part of the area. Good sign there with that above normal precipitation area across the central and southern part of the Great Basin. That is pointing to a continued monsoon and bringing some continued period of moisture to the southern part of the Great Basin. So that's it. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. Our information is on the screen, and you can also find us on Twitter. Thanks.